if you go to the gym every day in January, if you connect with your wife every day in January, if you do something inside of your business every day for the month of January, you will see results in early February. Those results will fade over time, okay? And so one push in January in anything, does not make you better off for the year. A structured routine does. A structured plan does. My name is Brian Panuzzo. I help financial professionals stay in the best shape of their life without stepping away from the desk. I know your life because I lived it for 20 years. Welcome back to the Success Lift podcast. I am your host, Brian, and Happy New Year to all of you. Welcome to 2026. I appreciate you being back with me. I hope you had an amazing end of 25 holiday season. We're all back at it. This is the week that everybody is typically back from holiday vacations. I've had a lot of clients on vacay in between Christmas and New Year's. I've had some on vacation prior to that. I've had some on vacation for the entire 2 weeks. And so for some of us, this is like a really starting to ramp up and get back to normal because you just got back home a day or two ago. For others, we've been home. We've been in sort of this hybrid routine a bit. For my clients inside of my program, we've been really focused on goal setting for 2026. And when I say goals, it's really standard setting. It's really developing systems. It's having a process we call our MVP process inside my program, developing your mission, your vision, and your principles so that you have values and standards that create your actions and allow you to benchmark whether or not you're doing the things you say you need to do on a very regular basis. And it's not just what normally people do at this time of the year, which is not a bad thing. It's well-intended. It's just so incredibly poorly executed, which is going to be part of the topic of the conversation that I'll move on to shortly. But with goal setting, we tend to just sort of proverbially throw shit up against the wall. And when we do that, some things do stick, but oftentimes not much does. And we find ourselves very much in the same place that we did before setting those goals, before throwing the you-know-what up against the wall. And we very rarely make significant progress, and we spin our wheels a little bit. And my hope for you this year, and specifically with our topic today, which will be alcohol, continuation of the topic of alcohol that we started a couple of weeks ago, and more importantly, or more specifically around dry January, which is a very popular 30-ish day challenge that many people do. I say 30-ish. I am fully aware that there are 31 days in January, but oftentimes people do not start on the 1st, or maybe they got through the weekend and they're doing dry January 5th until the 31st with one carve out because they have that one thing on January 21st. And it ends up not really being dry January. And it actually ends up being something more like a damp January, which is what I'm a big fan of. And I'll explain the difference between the two and why I think one may be a better idea than the other. But we often throw a lot of things up against the wall without a ton of structure behind it. Most importantly, without a plan to execute it. And then the kicker on top, adding a level of accountability inside your life. And that's really the magic formula for you to achieve whatever it is that you want this year. Having a proper plan in place, developing a structure and systems around it, and then getting accountability to make sure you're holding up your end of the bargain. And so why I wanted to bring up dry January right now is obviously it's topical. It's the beginning of January. It's something that a lot of people do, especially in my old world of Wall Street, of financial services. It's a big thing inside of the finance world. So for background, for some of you who are not financial professionals, obviously the holiday season tends to be a bit of a gluttonous time and a bit of a boozy time for many of us, where we're consuming food and alcohol on a quantity basis and quality that we don't normally consume. And so when we're on this sort of epic 45-day or so run from about the week or so before Thanksgiving all the way through New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and a year like this where New Year's Eve and New Year's Day are Wednesday and Thursday, and so nobody really starts on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you find yourself sort of staring down the barrel of, oh my God, my liver needs a real detox. It's been quite a run. And a lot of the people that I work with find themselves with 4 to 5 to sometimes even more, 7 to 10. And I'm not talking about days, because obviously I know how many days there are in a week and I know how many business days there are in a week, but 10 or so social obligations between work-related functions, family functions, friends meetups, holiday stuff through the course of December. And sometimes when you have to get all of those done and be at most or all of them and don't execute them the way you want to, sometimes the knee-jerk response is the other extreme, right? If you think of a barbell, like literally a barbell inside of a gym, for those of us who go, we put weights on both sides. A popular term in the bond market would be a barbell strategy, meaning like you buy the short end, the front end of the curve and the long end. So for my financial professionals that know what I'm talking about, we have this barbell strategy of drinking our faces off and our livers needing an absolute break and detox. And so the natural selection is to go right to 0 alcohol. And a few caveats before I get into some of the talking points that I have thought through for you that I want you to think about. I don't want you to just do what I tell you to do. I want you to think about it and apply it to your life based on what you need in your unique set of circumstances, because I'm going to a different destination in my life as my own individual, being my own individual person. You're going to a slightly different one potentially. Now, we might be headed towards the same neighborhood, in which case you can take some of what I say and execute it for yourself. But I need you and I want you to come up with your own plan. What's going to work for you? The clients that I work with get customized plans. I don't do the same thing with all of them. Now, do some of the things that we do look the same? Yeah. Do a lot of the things actually, now that I'm talking about it out loud? Yes. But is the last 20 or 30% completely customized to you? It sure is. It sure is. And so oftentimes what we do is we just go to the other end of the spectrum and say, you know what? I'm just not going to drink for 31 days or 30 days or 28 days or whatever it is. And so before I get into the pros and cons of that and what I think is a better strategy, a few acknowledgments and a few things that just I think will help drive the conversation from a macro level from the top down. Number one is I need you to know that I've done dry January many times, probably at least 5, maybe even more. I've done it successfully a few times and I've done it unsuccessfully a few times. And so I come from the perspective of someone who's done it before, who used to think it was the greatest idea in the world, who now has a different opinion about it. And so I feel like it's a well-informed opinion that I have. And I believe that I've come up with a better strategy for my own life and for the lives of the people that I work with. And you may be like one of those people. And so if you are, I thought this might be helpful for you. So that's number one. Number one, I've done dry January many times. Okay. Number two, just about every time I've done dry January, in fact, if not every time, my life in February has fairly quickly, not always on February 1st, and I actually do recall pouring a drink on the morning of February 1st because it was a weekend. It was like 7 years ago. I got through dry January successfully. I woke up on Saturday morning, February 1st, maybe it was a Sunday, I'm pretty sure it was a Saturday, and I went to the gym and I came home. And I don't even know if I made breakfast, but I made a vodka club soda with some fresh orange juice. And I put a couple splashes or squeezes of, took like 2 oranges and squeezed the oranges in. And I had a drink at about 9 a.m. And that's how I celebrated a successful dry January, with a vodka club soda with a splash of OJ at 9 in the morning on February 1st. Needless to say that my behavior for the rest of February mirrored much of my regular life and not January. And my results, most importantly, in October, November, and December of that year looked exactly the same as they were the prior year. And that, my friends, is ultimately the point. And the point is what I want you to consider, that if you continue to do this one thing for 31 days or 30 days or however long you do it, and you are not getting results in your life and you're not improving, then what the hell are you doing it for? All right. Something else to acknowledge before we get into some of the nitty-gritty. I think it's a great thing for you to drink less. I think most people who do drink too much. Now, alcohol is at like some crazy historic, like 96-year low in terms of consumption, according to some stats that I looked up before I hit record. But a lot of people still drink. And most people who still drink too much. Is alcohol trending down? Yes, it is. Is alcohol still a primary component and a factor in many people's lives? Yes, it is. Is alcohol a completely empty calories that need to get metabolized first by your body because it identifies it as a toxin, which it is? Does it burn it as fuel before carbohydrates and fat and therefore make losing body fat harder? Yes, it does. Could you still drink on a frequent basis and lose body fat and see the scale go down and get into great shape? You absolutely can. And I'll even share several clients of mine and examples over the last 8 or so months where I've had clients lose 20 to 30 pounds between 2 and 3 months at a time. So in 3 months, 30 pounds, 2 months, 20-ish, 25 pounds. Drinking alcohol consistently. Now, tons of asterisks, right? Didn't overdo it most times. Was very cognizant of their total calorie intake because that's ultimately what's going to drive fat loss and body composition. Well, fat loss, weight loss, let me correct myself, weight loss. Fat loss will be determined by some other things, total calories, protein consumption, if we're consistently strength training, okay? And so if we want to make sure we are optimizing our body composition, we should probably reduce alcohol, but it is possible. And I have the data to know that that is a correct statement. That is a factual statement. You can drink alcohol and you can actually get into phenomenal shape. Is it recommended? No, it is not. I do not recommend it as a strategy inside my program. What I do recommend inside my program is clients having a plan. And that's what I would want you to consider after listening to this short episode, is what is my plan? What is my plan for not only the month of January, but what is my plan for the rest of 2026? And if I don't have a plan, am I much more likely to just go back to the regular behavior that I exhibited leading into the holiday season and end the holiday season? And most of the time, that is exactly what happens for most people. Most times, right? I mean, we're in resolution season. We all know the stats around resolutions, okay? Most New Year's resolutions fail abruptly, all right? Dry January is certainly a form of a resolution, all right? Now, resolutions fail, in my opinion, because, now, they're well-intended. You wanting to make changes in your life is a good thing. You not having a plan, structure to achieve that on a daily and a weekly basis, accountability and long-term framework. Where does this fit inside of the framework of my long-term plan? Because this is a small season that we're dealing with. Those are the things that end up being the real problems to why you don't get the results that you want, that you may experience for a short period of time. All right? A 1 month push in anything, going to the gym, eating healthy, not drinking, doing different things in your relationship, whatever it may be. It feels good. You actually do it long enough to get benefits. By the middle of February, by the middle of January, people start feeling better, not without alcohol. By the end of January and into early February, they probably even see noticeable is the word I was looking for, noticeable weight loss, especially if you're someone who had no regard for your consumption for the previous 5 to 6 weeks. And so you feel good at the end of January and into early February. And it creates a feedback loop that what you did is the right thing because you feel good. But what you don't have is a sustainable plan for the long term. And you end up being back to where you were fairly soon. Some people it was within a week or two. Other people it takes about a month or so. But in general, most of us are back to what we were doing prior to dry January within a few weeks, all right? And oftentimes, especially in my case, dry January can lead to wet February because I didn't drink for an entire month. Therefore, I feel like I've earned it and I'm able to rebound and start to do some of the things that I normally do, right? So this, I survived dry January. It's almost like you feel accomplished and you can go back to drinking normally. And I'm here to tell you that yes, it is a good thing that you are reducing your consumption, oftentimes significantly for 1 month. But if you do nothing about it from February until the end of December in that calendar year, you will have absolutely zero results. Zero results, okay? And I can say that for everything. If you go to the gym every day in January, if you connect with your wife every day in January, if you do something inside of your business every day for the month of January, you will see results in early February. Those results will fade over time, okay? And so one push in January in anything, does not make you better off for the year. A structured routine does. A structured plan does, okay? That involves you holding yourself accountable and then has other people along the way on the journey with you, holding you to a standard. And so that's what we are doing, at least many of my clients are doing. Now, again, to be honest, I have clients doing dry January, and I'm very supportive of that because we have a plan in February. We have an off-ramp that they are going to slowly come off of and go back to a life that looks a little bit more normal for them, as opposed to what I've always done in the past, what you may do, which is not have a plan, and ultimately things go sideways by the second or third week. And so what are some things that my clients do during the month of January? How do I approach January? I'm actually in a pretty significant fat loss phase, a cut as we would call it, starting this week or so. I actually started a few days before this week, heading into a late February vacation that I want to look fantastic for myself. So I'm giving myself about 7 weeks to prep for that. Now I'm in really good shape, so I don't need a ton of time, and I am able to sort of pull a lever and be able to get into exceptional shape in probably 4 to 5 weeks, but I'm going to give myself 7 weeks or so, because there are going to be some moments where I do enjoy, a little bit of alcohol, and it's going to be within the context of my plan. So what are some of the things that we do? And I'm going to be implementing all of these myself because I still want to get results in January and February, but I also am going to want to have a couple of moments where I enjoy myself. When my wife and I go out for a date, we want to get a bottle of wine and we want to have a couple glasses of wine together, or sit at the bar. My wife orders a dirty martini, extra dirty, in which case I then say my stock joke, like, she's filthy, extra dirty, make sure like the bartender gets really weird and uncomfortable. Or if they have a good sense of humor, they laugh. I get an old fashioned or something like that. And so if I'm going to play golf, and I'm going to play golf with some friends that come into town in January or February, I'm going to have some alcohol, right? There's going to be a couple of moments where I'm not going to worry too much about the food that I'm consuming, but it's all going to be in the context overlaid with the plan that I'm executing on a daily and a weekly basis, okay? And so, again, just to state the facts, I have had clients, all right? The free guide that we're going to give you access to, that will give you some of these step-by-step directions, references and shows you a case study of a client who works at a global investment bank, who was out 3 to 4 nights a week with clients over a 3-month period, drank, probably 75% of the time. I think I looked at a 60-day stretch in which he drank about 41 out of 60 days, maybe more than that, okay? He lost over 20 pounds during that 60-day stretch. He lost over 30 in the 90-day stretch. Right? I've had clients lose up to 20 pounds during the holiday season from the beginning of November. So I'm giving myself a little bit of extended time here on the front end through last week. They've lost 20 pounds and they had multiple client obligations per week. They had Thanksgiving, they had Christmas, they went on a family vacation or on a quick trip themselves. They had a couple of business situations. They had dinners, they had meetups, they had you name it, and they still were able to do it, and they did not give up alcohol. And so the message to you is that you do not have to give up alcohol in order to get great results. It is probably an absolutely great idea for you to reduce alcohol structurally in your life. But dry January doesn't do that. It's just throwing shit up against the wall. And so I am pro structurally reducing alcohol in your life. I am very much anti dry January that does not have a plan for afterwards. And so what could be your plan afterwards? Let me walk you through some ideas. The first thing that we do is we take a look at our week on Sunday. If you are not sitting down for 5, 10, or 15 minutes on a Sunday, preferably in the morning because Sundays can get just as busy as weekdays for us. If you're not sitting down on Sunday morning with a cup of coffee, with some water, with some athletic greens, AG1, and planning out your week, you are getting off to a much slower start than you could. If you're not looking at your calendar, looking at your work dinners, looking at any business travel, looking at any social obligations that are already on your family calendar that your wife has for you, and you are not mapping out where you're fitting yourself into that calendar, you are already behind. Now, as a further step in this process with my clients, especially during the month of January or inside of a holiday season, a micro sprint where they have a lot going on, we're going to actually go into the moments that may be alcohol related and analyze them, for lack of a better phrase. And is it a moment that actually requires you to drink significantly? Is it a moment that even requires you to drink at all? Could you just have club sodas at this event because you have 3 more to go to this week between dinners and whatever it is? And so is this one where you could take a pass and punt and not have 3 or 4 because that's just what we've always done. We go to an event and we have 2, 3, 4 because everybody else is. Okay? So before every week starts, you got to have a plan. Now, for that event, you got to have a plan. And so you have to know what sort of food is going to be there. Is this a restaurant that I can get shrimp cocktail and a lean filet and just order some vegetables, have a couple glasses of wine? Don't be an a-hole with the sides is basically our stock steakhouse restaurant program, right? You can go to a steakhouse in New York City or a major city. Now, you can't get out of there for less than 1,000 calories. I get it. But you can do pretty well just on a plan like that. All right. And so there's no more what I would do, what everyone does do is you walk into the restaurant hoping that you don't drink too much, trying not to drink too much, and figuring out your plan for additional calories on the fly, as opposed to maybe pulling up the menu before you walk in there from the World Wide Web and looking at the options and not being influenced by the 4 or 5 other people that order food at the table and just knowing what you're going to order. I would say 85% of the restaurants I walk into, I do not need to look at the menu because I've taken 90 seconds to look at the menu beforehand. Now, the more you do this, the less you actually have to look at the menu per se, because it's going to be a similar discipline that we apply when we look for lean protein sources. We don't want to blow up too many calories on appetizers. With sides, we tend to lean towards as much fiber as possible. So those are going to be vegetables. And that's one of the other steps in our 3-part system with you're going to, let me take a side step here. What you need to do is you don't need to write notes while I'm talking right now. You need to just go to the show notes of this podcast that you're listening to on Apple or Spotify and click the link to download the Dry January guide that we are giving away to you so that you can maybe implement this instead of Dry January, or implement this in February if you're going to stick to Dry January. I don't care. Or you just want some good free information. Make sure you go to the show notes and check that out. So you don't need to start, frantically be scribbling this stuff down or taking notes. All right. We're gonna anchor the meal with protein and fiber. All right. So if you're at a dinner and you're drinking You're going to make sure that you get a lean protein source and a bunch of fiber, which is typically vegetables. All right, now, yes, it's fruit. It could be potatoes as well. But for the most part, that's going to be protein and fiber, protein and vegetables. All right, that's going to be most of your food. Now, if it's a cocktail hour, yeah, you look for a shrimp cocktail. Look for anything. I tell my clients, like, the raw bar, the seafood tower that you don't want to buy because it's your credit card. Well, if it's on the company credit card, or you're the client and your dinner is being paid for, well, then get the seafood tower, because anything on the seafood tower is typically very low in calories and usually pretty reasonably high in protein. And you're not going to get made fun of ordering shrimp cocktail or getting lump crab meat or ordering oysters or getting lobster tails. You might get made fun of if you order the garden salad. And so that's my recommendation to you. You might get made fun of if you order the petite filet. You're probably not going to get made fun of if you just order the 8-ounce filet. So change your language. Think about these things, okay? We don't want to let the drinks decide the food. And so we might keep drinking. We have a plan for how many drinks we're going to have, but we have our food dialed in before. We make sure that we know what we're doing that night so that we can then reverse engineer what the rest of our day needs to look like as well. Okay? So our food is planned. I mentioned this in the alcohol episode a couple of weeks ago. Food and alcohol are mutually exclusive. You can have 4, 5, 6, 12 drinks and eat grilled chicken and broccoli. I understand that never happens, but you could do it. And so this is part of the strategy. And I get it. It's like, well, Brian, this is really hard to do. I mean, it's really hard to eat high quality food when I'm drinking. Well, I know, I get it, but like something's got to give if you want to get results. So if you've decided, and some of my clients have made this conscious decision, they do not want to be the person that is like publicly not consuming alcohol so that they're like drawing attention to themselves. Now, this is a completely separate conversation about whether or not you should do that, is the right thing for you. Nobody really actually cares. I do truly believe that you should do what's best for you. You should not care about other people. But I've also been in these circumstances, in these situations, and I understand. I understand sometimes it's easier to just pretend or to just operate on 1/10 or 1/5 of the levels that everybody else is. So you might get a vodka club soda, then you might just ask for a club soda and nobody else knows because it looks like a vodka club soda, right? So no one really knows. You might just spread out your drinks and not allow the waiter to keep coming over and topping off your wine. Just put your hand on top or just quietly let him know, her know. Please don't refill my wine until it's like done. Because you get halfway done, they come, they fill it up and you drink more. I mean, that's the strategy, always. So we're going to have a plan for what we're eating, and we're going to have a general plan for what we're drinking. Now, this starts at a macro level at the beginning of the week, and then it goes down to a micro level from event to event. And so you're going to look at the week, see what you have, decide whether or not it's alcohol related. If it is, do we start to allocate drinks per event? Do we think through what are the more important ones? Do we think through what are the experiential ones? Do we think through how we're going to get out of maybe even going to any of them to begin with? But we're going to start to choose our alcohol ahead of time. Now, if we're talking about what's the best alcohol to consume, we're splitting hairs a little bit here. But in general, I would say, the clear liquor of like vodka or like a tequila, those are going to be the lowest calorie. If you're going to have mixers, it should probably just be club soda, seltzer, tonic water, stuff like that. Calorie-free mixers, right? So just think vodka soda, tequila, splash of soda, whatever. Some guys are like, like a whiskey splash of water or something like that, all right? As opposed to all of the caloric, or I hate to say the word sugary, because it's not the sugar, it's the calories ultimately that really get you. Now, the sugar doesn't really make you feel any better the next morning. But from a calorie standpoint, sugar doesn't matter. It's just they're calories. And so could we keep those down and just go with, like, again, a vodka soda? A glass of wine is going to have 125 to 150 calories in it. Now, most likely the glasses of wine that are being poured at, certainly in our homes are going to be double. Maybe in the restaurant, it's like 1.5x type of thing. Or a lighter beer. Where we get into trouble typically is, again, those more caloric, like think a margarita, right? margarita is going to have 200 extra calories in it from all the other shit. Okay. Or, sorry IPA boys, but your IPAs, first of all, they suck. I don't know why you're consuming them. They taste like shit. They have stupid names. It's all super fancy, like metrosexual like stuff going on. Like, come on, dude. Just drink a normal beer. You know what I mean? Your beer doesn't need to be called like Space Dust or Alien Head, Yes, it has like triple the alcohol. I get it. It also has triple the calories. Okay, and that's why. So I'm not a fan of IPAs for the taste, thankfully, so I don't have to deal with a 400 calorie beer. I'd rather just drink a 110 calorie beer, but I would avoid IPAs. I would avoid heavier calorie beers and just go with regular beers, okay? This is where, if you are out at a restaurant, you can get a non-alcoholic beer and just have it in a glass and everybody sees you drinking. And quite frankly, even if they saw the can on the table, they might not even know, or the bottle on the table, they might not even know. And so this is where a non-alcoholic choice might work for you as well. Non-alcoholic beers have really exploded. There's some amazing brands. I have no affiliation to any of them. Most beer companies now have their own version of NA. Athletic Brewing is a great one that I typically keep in the house. But like Heineken Zero I've had before. I think even Guinness has a non-alcoholic version. And so those are all great options. The wine industry has not figured out non-alcoholic wine yet. I have had some non-alcoholic wines. They suck. Just drink the wine, all right? And reduce your consumption, okay? So we got to plan ahead of time. We got to think about where we're going to use our bullets. And if we have 3 or 4 events, we got to allocate the drinks, all right? And some of those events, you're going to have to just step up and not drink. Others, walk in knowing that you're going to have 2. You're going to have 3. There's no try 2. There's no I might have 3 to 4. Like, how weak that language is? That's 6, like all day, all right? But if I'm going to have 2, you have 2. It's black and white. Now, bonus points if you have somebody who you're declaring this to, i.e. your coach. I'm going to have 2 on Thursday night. Those are my 2 drinks for the night. Guess who checks in on Friday or Saturday, or at least at worst on your check-in on Sunday? Hey, Tom, how are those 2 drinks on Thursday you said you're going to have? Shit, yeah, I had 4, and then I had 2 more on Friday. Well, what the hell are we doing, Tom? Are we keeping commitments that we make to ourselves, or are we just pretending like we don't care? And so if you have somebody to answer to, you're going to perform better, guaranteed, okay? Then we want to make sure we choose our meals if we're consuming food with some of this stuff. So we want to start with lean protein. Think, lean steak, filet, think, some type of cod, things like that, whitefish, or chicken dish, okay? Add fiber, vegetables, salad, all right? And then do your best with the rest of the stuff. Skip the fried stuff, skip the creamy stuff, skip the sugary stuff, right? It definitely will help you feel better tomorrow, promise you, okay? And then if you can, I would suggest highly, doing something after the event. Can you get a workout in? Now, that might be the next morning. Can you get a walk-in if it's a dinner or if it's a lunch, all right? And get back to your program right away. Do you have a program? It's most of your problems is that you're not following a prescribed program that is customized for you, all right? And that is going to keep you on a better path for the months of February through December of 2026. I do not care if you do dry January or not, all right? What I do care about is you getting real results. And the other problem with dry January that I've experienced is that it sets up your relationship with the process to be one that is predominantly deemed a failure. And let me explain. And this is important. I should have probably started with this. I cannot tell you how many times I've talked to people who have gotten 14 days into dry January. And it is maybe the first or the second weekend, or maybe it's 20 days. I don't know, whatever. I don't know the NFL schedule. And it's, the first weekend or second weekend of the NFL playoffs. And their favorite team is on. And it's Sunday. And they haven't drank in 20 days. And they decide that they want to have a few drinks during the game. Or they go out to a party. Or their wives are not doing dry January. And 17 days in, their wife's like, you know what, I really would love to have a drink with you. And they're not sabotaging you. They just really would love to have a drink with you. And you drink. And you have a few drinks. and you don't go off the rails, but you have a few drinks, the next day or the next week, how many times I've had a conversation with somebody that has looked at the month of January as a failure. It is absurd. You just spent the last 45 days absolutely decimating your liver. And then you took 20 days off, or 14 days off, or 17 days off, or whatever it is. And you didn't drink. And then you drink once, which was technically unplanned, and technically means that you did not do the thing you said you were going to do. But Jesus, I mean, you are on an unbelievable winning streak for a period of time. But you're viewing the entire time as a failure. When I would like you to reframe that and think about the time that you actually did what you said you were going to do and accomplish the goal. And so the rigidness of dry January for me sets you up to fail, because unless you literally do not have a drop of alcohol, it is a failure. And coming off of a season in which I know many people drank every single day for the most part. If we're looking at a 45-day stretch, I know many people listening to this right now drank 40 days. I guarantee it. And then for you to not drink for 20 straight days and have a couple of drinks on the 21st of January or whatever it may be, and think that's a failure, it's insane. Because then you associate the process with failing and your inability to stick to a goal. And then a lot of people, maybe not you, I hope not you, a lot of people go through this shame cycle of like, can't do it, see, try to do it again, doesn't work for me, this whole life doesn't work for me. And they go back to their normal behavior. And I really hope you don't do that this year. And so if you are planning dry January, if you're in the middle of it right now and it's going well, great. I would strongly ask you to consider whether or not a damp January might work better for you, because there's going to be moments coming. This week is easy. There's no client dinners yet. Nobody's traveling yet. You're tired from New Year's and the holidays. It's easy not to drink for the first 7 days of the month. It's gonna get harder. And so maybe there is an event that it would be appropriate that you have a couple of drinks. Plan it now. Give yourself something to look forward to, and then get right back to it. Because those people who fail when it's unexpected, when they told themselves they were going to do something unrealistic, when they fail, they look at the entire process as a failure and they go right back to their behavior. And so I know people who will have that drink on January 21st or a couple of drinks, and then on the 22nd say to themselves, fuck it, I didn't do it, I messed up. And by the end of February, they'll be drinking the same amount of alcohol that they normally consume, when they could just finish out the month strong and get right back to work. Well, we don't do that because we don't have an actual plan. And I'm begging you to get yourself a plan that has structure, that has systems, and has accountability. And if you do those things, you will have an amazing January, you will have an incredible 2026, and the rest of your life will be pretty damn good too. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to spending a lot of time with you in 2026. We have some client interviews coming up. There'll be more of me on the mic. I'm wishing you an amazing start to the year. Let's get after it. I'll see you back here next week.